Oh my god. It's still coming.
will always be thankful for AUA. It was the first school that gave me an opportunity to practice medicine. When I went to Antigua, everything was In this video, let's learn about the electroencephalogram. The encephalogram is the graphical recording of the electrical activities of the brain. And the electroencephalography is the study of the electrical activities of the brain. The electrical activity of the brain is much complicated when compared to that of a single nerve fiber or a neuron. That is due to the involvement of large number of neurons and synapses. A German psychiatrist named Hans Berger was the first person to analyze the EEG waves systematically, and hence the EEG waves are referred as the Berger waves. Let's talk about the significance of the EEG. The EEG is useful in the diagnosis of neurological disorders and sleep disorders. And the pattern of the EEG is altered in the epilepsy, which occurs due to the excessive discharge of impulses from the cerebral cortex. And the second one is the disorders of the midbrain, those affecting the ascending reticular activating system. And the third one is the subdural hematoma, during which there is a collection of blood in the subdural space over the cerebral cortex. The methods of recording EEG. The electroencephalograph is the instrument that records the EEG, and the electrodes are called as the scalp electrodes. Those are from the instrument, and they are placed over the unopened skull or over the brain after opening the skull or by piercing into the brain. And these electrodes are of two types, the unipolar and the bipolar. While using the bipolar electrodes, both of the terminals are placed in the different parts of the brain. And while using the unipolar, the active electrode is placed over the cortex and the indifferent electrode is kept in some part of the body that is away from the cortex. Now let's learn about the waves of the EEG. The electrical activity that is recorded by the EEG may have synchronized or the desynchronized waves. And the synchronized waves are the regular and invariant waves, whereas the desynchronized waves are irregular and these are variant. In normal persons, the EEG have three frequency bands. Those are the alpha rhythm, beta rhythm, the delta rhythm. And in addition to these three types of waves, the EEG in children shows the theta waves. And now coming to the first rhythm, that is the alpha rhythm. This picture indicates the waves of the electroencephalogram, and this line indicates the time in seconds. The alpha rhythm consists of rhythmical waves which appear at a frequency of 8 to 12 waves per second. Now in this picture, this is the standard, and the first frequency band is the alpha rhythm. So these are the alpha waves or the alpha rhythm. The alpha rhythm consists of the rhythmical waves which appear at a frequency of 8 to 12 waves per second. So the frequency is 8 to 12 waves per second. The standard is the 100 microvolts, and these alpha waves have an amplitude of 50 microvolts. And the alpha waves are the synchronized waves. That means these waves are regular and invariant. The alpha waves are obtained in an inattentive brain or the mind, as in drowsiness or light sleep or in narcosis, and when the person is in closed eyes. The alpha waves can be abolished by the visual stimuli or by mental effort. So it is diminished when the eyes are open. The waves of the alpha rhythm are mostly marked in the parieto-occipital area, and sometimes these waves appear in other areas also. And now let's talk about the alpha block. This is the alpha block. The alpha block is the replacement of synchronized alpha waves by the desynchronized and low voltage waves when the eyes are open. So synchronized waves are replaced by desynchronized waves and by the low voltage waves when the eyes are open. And the desynchronized waves do not have specific frequency and it occurs due to any form of the sensory stimuli or the mental concentration such as solving some mathematical problems. And the desynchronization is the common term used for the replacement of the regular alpha waves with the irregular low voltage waves. So the alpha block is caused by the desynchronization, and it is due to the loss of the synchronized activity in the neural elements that are responsible for the regular wave pattern. And now let's come to the beta rhythm or the beta waves. These are the beta waves in an EEG. The beta rhythm includes high frequency waves, that is from 15 to 60 waves per second, and the amplitude is very low, that is from 5 to 10 microvolt. And the beta waves are the desynchronized waves. The desynchronized meaning irregular and the variant. The beta rhythm is recorded during the mental activity or the mental tension or during the arousal state.
Welcome back, guys. In the discussion of neurophysiology, now we are going to discuss a topic that is having a huge clinical relevance. What is the topic, sir? To diagnose many diseases affecting the brain, we tend to record the electrical activity of our brain. And what is this technique, sir? This technique is in the form of EEG. What is this? It is our electroencephalography. This technique is our electroencephalography. Most importantly, what we are going to record here, we are going to see certain brain waves. We are going to record brain waves. And how many brain waves we are going to see, sir? 5 brain waves, sir. And look very carefully. This electroencephalography is totally about the overall electrical activity. This point is very important, the basic concept. This is totally about the overall electrical activity. There may be a lot of individual potentials, but what we record here is the overall electrical activity. This overall electrical activity is seen in the form of summated potentials. This point is very important. It is not about individual potentials here. It is about the summation of all these potentials. The key word is summated potentials. The overall electrical activity is written in the form of electroencephalography. Listen very carefully. This technique of electroencephalography was actually first recorded by a psychiatrist. What is his name, sir? His name is Hans Berger. Remember? He was a psychiatrist. His name is Hans Berger, which actually rhymes similar to burger. He is Hans Berger, psychiatrist. With this important note, now we are going to see those 5 important brain waves. What are these brain waves, sir? Look very carefully. This topic is exclusively about the electroencephalographic waves. The most important point we are going to identify these waves, look carefully, is about their frequency. This point is very important. What is the meaning of this frequency, sir? This frequency simply means the number of waves in one given second. That's all. It is totally about the frequency. We denote this as factor m frequency. Always remember, while identifying these EEG waveforms, this frequency is directly proportional to the activity of brain. This point is very important. This frequency is directly related with the activity of brain. That means what? A wave having a very high frequency, the brain is most active. The wave having the very less frequency, the brain is least active. That's all. It is all about frequency here, that is number of waves per second. Now we are going to talk about the first wave, which is actually considered to be the wave shown to be having the highest frequency. What is that wave, sir? That highest frequency is usually around more than 60 hertz. That means more than 60 waves per second, your brain is most active. During generation of which important waveforms? This waveform, the first one, is gamma wave in EEG. Highest frequency, more than 60 hertz, gamma wave. If you come down, the next important waveform will have the frequency of around 13 to 30 hertz. Second highest. What is this waveform? Just listing the name. This is our beta wave. More than 60 hertz, gamma wave. Around 13 to 30 hertz, beta wave. Perhaps that important wave put lot of star marks. It is the wave majority of the examiners are interested. They ask a lot of questions from this wave. First one. Its frequency is around 8 to 12 hertz. What is this waveform, sir? This waveform is alpha wave. Very important point. This alpha wave was asked many times before in our exams. So far we have seen gamma wave, beta wave, now alpha wave in the frequency range of 8 to 12 hertz. The next important waveform, which is shown to have a frequency of around 4 to 7 hertz. And what is this waveform, sir? This waveform is the theta wave. Gamma wave, beta wave, alpha wave, theta wave. Now we are left with only one last waveform, which is actually shown to be having the lowest frequency waveform. And what is that lowest frequency, sir? Only 1 to 3 waves. Up to a maximum of only 1 to 3 waves per second. And what is this waveform, sir? This waveform is delta wave. Because this delta waves are having the lowest frequency, the other name for this delta wave, they are our slow waves. AIMS examination. Which waveforms in EEG are called as slow waves? Because of the lowest frequency, delta waves are obviously the slow waves. What I told you, there are 5 important brain waveforms. The identification is based on their frequency. Frequency is directly related with the activity status of the brain. The wave with the highest frequency is gamma. The wave with lowest frequency is delta. Now we are going to see the individual characteristics of all these waveforms. With this important note, as I told you, we are going to start with that waveform, which is very favorite for majority of the examiners, alpha wave. The ones who are viewing this video now, if I want to record EEG from your brain, I don't want alpha waves at all from your brain now. I don't want alpha waves at all from your brain now. Why? This alpha wave is usually generated whenever an individual's eyes are closed, but he is not sleeping. Very important first one. His eyes are closed, his or her eyes are closed, but he is not sleeping. That means what is this state called as? This state is a classical example for a relaxed state. Your eyes are closed, but not sleeping, you are in a relaxed state. Most important point. Your eyes are closed, but you are not sleeping. Then what you are doing on closing eyes? You are thinking something. Your mind is wandering. That imagination horse, you are sitting above it and your mind is dragging you somewhere. Mind wandering. Eyes closed, not sleeping, your mind is wandering. It is for this reason you are totally inattentive. The wave of inattention. Now you clearly understood why I don't want alpha waves from your brain now. Remember, eyes closed but you are not sleeping, your mind is wandering. It is a typical wave of relaxed state, the wave of inattention. What I told you, very important point. Its frequency range is usually around 8 to 12 hertz. Its frequency range is usually around 8 to 12 hertz. This type of alpha waves, having frequency of 8 to 12 Hz, is usually generated mainly from the occipital cortex and parietal cortex. Very important. The brain regions, which are actually the sources for these alpha waves, mainly from occipital region and parietal cortex. Points. Alpha waves, eyes closed, but you are not sleeping, your mind is wandering. That means you are inattentive. It's a wave of relaxed state. Frequency is 8 to 12 Hz, mainly generated from occipital and parietal region. Let's move on to the next waveform. And what is that waveform, sir? In that list, remember, it is the beta waveform. And it is this beta waveform I want all of your brain should have. It is this waveform I want all of your brain to generate. Why, sir? Beta wave is the wave of wakefulness. If you are widely awake, your brain will have more of beta waves. Not only that, you are totally attentive. The wave of attention. That's all. The wave of wakefulness, the wave of attention. That is why I want it from your brain. Beta. What I told you, the frequency range is usually around 13 to 30 Hz. The brain region, which is actually the source of this beta wave, is frontal cortex. Recently, they asked me, which is the brain part that mediate attention behavior? Aims examination. Attention. It is taken care of by frontal cortex. To be more specific, this area is called PFC. What does PFC stands for, sir? Prefrontal cortex, that exclusively mediate attention behavior. Beta waves are generated mainly from the frontal cortex. For attention, it is the prefrontal cortex. Beta wave, the wave of wakefulness, the wave of attention, frequency range 13 to 30 Hz, mainly generated from the frontal cortex. From there, let's move to the next waveform. In our discussion, the next one that comes is theta wave. Most important first point, if at all you see a theta wave from this brain part, underline the word, it is hippocampus. Theta waves are mainly generated from hippocampus. This type of theta waves, the main function of hippocampus, what is the function, sir? I told you so far. Beta wave is the wave of attention. It is now there in your brain as a short-term memory. After 5 or 6 months in examination, if the same question comes, if you remember that, the short-term memory is converted to long-term memory. What is this concept called, sir? Conversion of short-term memory to long-term memory. This point is very important. Conversion of short-term to long-term memory. Which brain part is involved in this conversion? Hippocampus. During this conversion, hippocampus generates theta waves. Very important point. Hippocampus generates theta waves. This type of theta waves generated from hippocampus is obviously called as memory waves. Very important. Remember this concept. Hippocampus is involved in converting short-term memory to long-term memory. During the process of this conversion, hippocampus generates theta waves. That is why this theta waves can be also called as memory waves. It is related with memory function. Other than that, the first important thing, it is called as memory wave. Theta waves can be also seen during sleep. When it can be seen during sleep, during our discussion of sleep, we will find. For the time being, note, theta waves from hippocampus, memory function, memory waves. It can be also seen during sleep. What is the frequency range of this theta waves, sir? Around 4 to 7. So far we have discussed about alpha wave, beta wave, theta wave. Now where are we moving, sir? This important waveform is the delta wave. I told you so far. It is the waveform that is shown to be having the slowest frequency. How much is that frequency, sir? Around only 1 to 3 waves per second. That is why these waves are also called as slow waves exclusively generated during sleep. That is why this delta wave, the predominant, the major sleep wave. The major sleep wave. We are going to have a discussion on sleep. We will come across the same point again. Introduction. Delta wave. Slowest frequency. 1 to 3 Hz. That's why they are also called slow waves. It is the major sleep wave. Very important. Other than that, you are left with that waveform which is actually shown to be having the highest frequency. What I told you, that highest frequency wave is obviously gamma wave. What is that frequency range, sir? More than 60 Hz. That means what? Highest frequency, gamma wave. Our brain is most active. That means what your brain is doing. When your brain is most active, in a classical example, this gamma wave, brain is most active, can be also generated during attention. But what we call this attention as focused attention. Gamma waves are generated during focused attention. Your brain is most active. Real life example. I told you beta waves are for attention. Listening to this video lecture, you are attentive. Your brain will have beta wave. Now listen to me. Once you are going and sitting inside exam hall, looking into the computer screen, seeing the questions and trying to answer the question in your entrance exam, your brain will be most active. We'll come back to now. Third type of attention, the focused attention you have during examination, that time your brain will have more of gamma waveform. During attention, it is beta. But during focused attention, your brain is most active, particularly during your entrance examinations, will tend to have more of gamma. Beta for attention, but gamma is for focused attention. Most active, highest frequency, which is having more than 60 Hz. You understood this concept carefully? I told you so far. Alpha waves, relaxed state, wave of inattention. Beta wave is the wave of wakefulness, attention wave. Theta wave, memory wave, can be also seen during sleep. Delta wave, the major sleep waveform. Gamma wave, the wave of focused attention. With this important discussion, let's move to the next topic. Alright guys, now we are moving into a very, very interesting brain function we all just love to do. What is that interesting brain function, sir? It is sleep. What is this sleep? The daily excursions into our inner world. Sleep, we are allowed to do. This is sleep, very important discussion. In recent times, there are a lot of questions coming from sleep physiology. If the examiner did not set a question from sleep physiology, he will not get to sleep at all that day night. Such an important topic in recent times, sleep physiology. The most important first topic, what we need to remember, we undergo certain stages of sleep. Broadly speaking, the first stage, our eyeballs will not move at all. We call this as NREM sleep. What does NREM stands for? Non-rapid eye movement sleep. Our eyeballs are not moving. The second sleep type we will have after this NREM sleep is REM sleep. What does REM here stands for? Rapid eye movement sleep. I'm just giving you an outline. We have NREM sleep and REM sleep. Now, this point itself, you should have one question in your mind. There is something happening during REM sleep that is going to bring eyeball movements. What happens during REM sleep that brings the eyeball movement? We will find out. Just a curious question for you. We have NREM sleep and REM sleep. Let's start one by one. The first question. It is about non-rapid eye movement sleep. We go through certain stages. Obviously, the first one is called as stage 1. During the stage 1 NREM, we tend to have EEG waves in the frequency of around 4 to 7 hertz. We all know it matches with the frequency of theta waveform. In recent time, they will definitely give you a picture-based MCQ, ask to find out which stage of sleep is it. How to find out that waves per second, how many waveforms are there? If you see in one given second 4 to 7 waveforms that corresponds to theta wave, we call this as stage 1 NREM. From this stage 1, we slightly go inside to our sleep stage. During this stage 2, our EEG will show waves in the frequency range of around 8 to 12 hertz. From our discussion, we have seen this frequency that matches with alpha wave, but please to make a note, they are not alpha waves. Even though they have frequency that looks like alpha waves, they are not called as alpha waves. In sleep, they look like spindles. That is why we call this as sleep spindles. They look like a complex of activity. We call them as K complexes. That's all. What I told you. Stage 2 will have waves that resemble frequency 8 to 12 hertz, but they are not alpha waves. We don't call them as alpha waves here. They have very specific names, sleep spindles and K complexes. This is the question which was asked numerous times before. In which sleep stage you see sleep spindles and K complexes? The answer is obviously stage 2 NREM. Stage 2 NREM will have sleep spindles and K complexes. If you further go deep inside, automatically we have stage 3 and stage 4. Why we are combining both of the stages, stage 3 and stage 4? It is where predominantly we are going to see our delta waves. Very important. We know these delta waves are having the frequency of around 1 to 3 hertz. They are called as slow waves. All in this point we know this delta wave is the major waveform of NREM sleep. If they ask you, what is the major waveform of NREM sleep? Because both these two stages, stage 3 and stage 4, exclusively will have delta waves. It is for this reason, the major waveform of NREM sleep is delta wave. These delta waves are also called as slow waves. That is why you look very carefully. This NREM sleep can be also called as slow wave sleep because of this reason. Simple logic. Delta waves are the major waves of NREM sleep. That is why NREM sleep is also called slow wave sleep. Look very carefully. Stage 1 NREM will have theta waves. Stage 2 NREM will have sleep spindles and K complexes. Stage 3 and 4 exclusively will have delta waves. The other name for NREM sleep is slow wave sleep. If you understand this concept carefully, now I will introduce a small new terminology here. In recent times, this stage 1 is called as N1. The stage 1 corresponds to N1 or NREM. The stage 2 corresponds to N2. NREM 2 is stage 2. The stage 3 and 4 combined together in recent times we call as N3. That's all, the new nomenclature. N1 corresponds to stage 1. NREM 2 corresponds to stage 2. NREM 3. N3 is actually the combination of stage 3 and stage 4. With this important note, we are seeing the salient features you see during NREM sleep. From that, at the end of this NREM sleep, we automatically move into the next important sleep stage, that is our REM sleep. As I told you, it is about rapid eye movement sleep. It is that question we are still having curiosity about. Why? What happens during this sleep? Our eyeballs start moving. The reason is simple. Look very carefully. An impulse first originates in the pons. From pons, they travel to our lateral geniculate bodies. Eventually, they will end in occipital cortex. From pons, traveling to lateral geniculate body, eventually end in occipital cortex. Take this P from pons, take this G from lateral geniculate bodies, take this O from occipital cortex. It is usually seen in the form of a spike-like waveform we call PGO spikes. It is these PGO spikes that are exclusively important to bring about that eyeball movement. That's What is the reason for this eyeball movements? You can easily assess. Lateral geniculate body is concerned with eye functions. Occipital cortex exclusively concerned.